The murder trial of Marcelia Fonseca, the focus shifts to those investigating the cause of that fire. She's accused of setting the fire that led to her baby nephew's death in 2019. The lead investigator with the State Department of Justice walked jurors through several photos he took in the home during his investigation. Through evidence gathered, testing, and his experience, he was able to rule out possible sources of the fire, including an outlet on the wall that's been called into question by the defense. Here's his conclusion.
Did you reach a conclusion as to the origin of this fire?
I did.
And where was the origin of the fire in your
I believe the fire started at the metal wire cart in the corner.
And did you reach a conclusion as to the cause of the fire?
Yes.
And what was your conclusion as to the cause of the fire?
That the fire was intentionally set.
The defense challenged his conclusion. Testimony resumes on Monday.